People love to watch videos of stressed horses. This is a simple fact if you look at the videos of horses that go most viral on social media and what we're seeing in competition. People have gotten to the point where they watch videos of horses who are being trained in an abusive manner and who are highly stressed, and they think it's beautiful. And the person I want to use as a flaming example of this is the man behind Pearman Ranch, Andrew Pearman. He posts all over social media and has for years blatant proof of how frequently he uses hyperflexion, aka roll cur, in training. And he proudly does so all over his social media. He does so at competition. He's rewarded for it at competition. And he's amassed over 600,000 followers on TikTok and over 300,000 on Instagram, and gets tons of likes and views on a lot of his videos, despite the fact that almost every single video that he posts is showing a horse that is in hyperflexion, and a highly stressed horse at that. And I think he's a great example for how little our society cares about horse welfare, and how conditioned so many people have become to view a stressed horse as just being a normal, regular horse, that horses just look that way, that they just behave this way, and this is normal, this is beautiful, and it perpetuates the cycle of abuse. I watch videos like his, and I'm taken aback by the fact that, one, someone would proudly post these types of things without any shame, and two, that he would garner so much support and so many people following him and defending his actions. These are not happy horses. There's numerous clips of the same horses that you can see when he's working with them and they have a rider's hands behind the reins. They're very overflexed. And then he posts videos of them at liberty, and you can see how differently they move. Yet, if you go through the comment section of a lot of his videos, you have people trying to claim that that's just how they naturally move, that that's just how horses of that breed move, and that's just how they naturally carry themselves, and it's normal. And it's very clearly not the case. It's transparently untrue. And he is just one of so many people who are doing this very thing. But I think what's so interesting about his account in particular is that he is getting a lot of non-horsey followers who just look at the pretty movement of his horses and like his accounts and be massive supporters, because they assume that competition wouldn't enable those types of practices if they were not ethical, when that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think that as an industry and as of animal loving people and horse loving people, we need to look at stuff like this and be highly concerned, because it speaks for how normalized abuse of horses is. I think that horses are one of the most publicly abused animals in the world, where the abuse of them is put in front of cameras, it's done proudly in front of huge audiences, it's normalized to the point where it's talked about in training methods just flippantly and normally, like, oh yeah, you need to whip them to put them in their place. Sometimes horses need to meet Jesus. Sometimes horses need a hard hand, or with equipment like harsh bits, people will normalize that too and be like, some horses just need a stronger bit than others. And then you look at the mechanics of the bits that they're using, and they are incredibly rough, harsh, and painful. But it is so normalized that people will talk about these things, and they'll engage in these training practices, and they'll openly support them while being consistently disconnected from what their support actually says and how the horse is experiencing what they're doing, because the abuse of horses is so normalized. We see it in the media, we see it in competition, we see it in art with statues, paintings. Look up horse paintings in any museum, and the vast majority of them depict stress horses. We have become so desensitized to horse stress that people just view it as the norm. And as a result, the horses continue to suffer. And as a result of the normalization of horse stress, anyone who speaks out against it is then labeled as an extremist, because it now feels extreme to say things that are just facts, because people have normalized a certain way of thinking about horses for so long that anything that conflicts with that societal viewpoint makes them raise a red flag and makes them try to discredit the person who's questioning the status quo. You'll hear things like, you've obviously never trained a horse, you've obviously never handled horses before, you don't know what it's like to handle high-end horses, your horses probably walk all over you. And there's all of these degrading retorts that are used to immediately discredit the opinion of anyone who isn't in blatant support of abusive practices. It happens all the time. It'll probably happen in the comments section of this video, honestly. It happens all the time on posts that I make about this. And it's really interesting because people comment these things without even looking at who they are talking to. They don't even pause for a moment to consider that the person who is speaking out against abusive practices might actually have had experience in those fields prior, or extensive experience in the equine science realm, etc. They don't care. They're just seeking confirmation bias, and they're just running with whatever they can to continuing to uphold the status quo of abuse regardless. I think it's going to need to hit a point where people stop and pause for a moment and ask themselves, would you rather continue having access to horses and horse sport, but change things for better ethics using evidence-based practices that have been tested and shown to be more ethical? Or would you rather continue to double down and defend the indefensible and defend abusive methods and normalize this, and have people who are not horse people but look at what we're doing and they go, what the heck is that? Those horses look incredibly unhappy, because lots of people do that as well, and have the whole horse sport scrapped. Because honestly, what is going to be the demise of the horse industry as we know it is horse people. It's not going to be people on the outside, although people who don't want to change things are going to blame that. They're going to blame extremists. They're going to blame people like me. They're going to blame non-horsey people who think that horse sports are abuse. But in reality, all of the fault falls with the lack of change from within. The refusal to look at modernized practices, the refusal to consider all of the piling up scientific studies showing how stressed the average competition horse is. People are refusing to consider these things, and it is going to result in the demise of the horse industry as we know it, because we're going to lose our social license to operate. And frankly, we deserve it if we don't make changes, because it is so incredibly egotistical and selfish to continue doubling down and defending practices so that humans do not have to put the work in to change what they're doing and do things in a more ethical manner, and so that people don't have to face the music of what they're actually doing to their horses. It is so incredibly selfish, and if we're going to continue down that path, then we deserve whatever comes from it. Pearman Ranch is actively abusing horses, and he's sharing it online, and he's getting tons of social clout, and he's getting tons of money from the ad programs, probably from the amount of views that his posts get, and it is just out in the open and proud. It's the equivalent to if someone made an account of them running a dog fighting ring and met a ton of support for it and had tons of people liking and supporting their account and didn't meet any repercussions or have the videos struck down. It's essentially the same thing because it's so damaging. Hyperflexion and roll cur has been heavily studied, and there are so many studies that consistently depict trends of stress in horses who are ridden in hyperflexion. You can also see it in their bodies. There's a reason why these horses have so much sweat and froth on them. It's partially because of stress. It's not just because of the physical effort. There's also a reason why you see so much mouth foam to the point where it's dripping all over their chest on horses who are ridden in hyperflexion, because they're being pulled on so much that they cannot swallow properly. So there are reasons for this. There are studies to support the lack of ethics behind training in hyperflexion. It also impedes their ability to breathe because it squishes their larynx and they cannot breathe properly. So not only is their swallow reflex impeded, their ability to breathe is impeded, their vision is impeded because horses' eyes are on the sides of their face, and when you pull them into hyperflexion, they're essentially looking like this, and they cannot see properly. And there are so many reasons not to do that. There's so many reasons not to ride in hyperflexion. It is truly so easy for people to just train in a more ethical way, but we see horse people consistently, stubbornly refuse that. And this is not just something that this one guy is doing. It's being rewarded in upper level dressage. We saw it at the Olympics. We see it everywhere. It is a pattern of behavior that is consistently being replicated in the horse world. And I am so freaking tired of it being supported. And I'm so freaking tired of the people who support it trying to label people like myself like the bad guys. And all of their responses to me, interestingly enough, are just to degrade me as a horse person and a trainer and my knowledge and my ability. I seldom, if ever, get a response from these people that calls to question the ethics surrounding my care and training of my own horses. It's just degrading my capacity as a competition rider, which once again brings back the attention to where these people's priorities lie. They're not concerned about whether or not the people questioning the ethics of horse sports and certain horse training methods are mistreating their horses. They are just mocking people for their lack of competition prowess and lack of competition record, because that is where their priorities lay, is with people's ability to produce horses to a point where they are useful for people and can bring people competitive clout and can bring people championships. That's where all of their priorities lie. If you break down the arguments that most of the people supporting these practices have, they are almost always rooted in putting people's success in the competition ring, ability to train horses quickly, ability to train as many horses as possible, ability to produce expensive horses. They are inflating all of those factors to be of the utmost importance while completely negating whether or not the horse's needs are met. The other thing that I want to note is that a lot of horses who are being trained in these highly stressful ways are also lacking a good life outside of training. They're often stalled a lot. They often don't have any social access to other horses. They don't get turned out very much, which is why you see so many videos of these types of horses being explosive and difficult to handle in hand. But the people who support those practices will tell you they're just high-end horses. This is just how they act. When in reality, these high-end horses often have a shared trauma of unmet needs and stressful training practices, and then they react accordingly. And that is just the truth. I am so tired of seeing this stuff normalized. I'm so tired of seeing how many more views, likes, and shares abusive videos of horse training get and how much support they get. I'm so tired of people acting like they are the victim when they are called out for how their behavior impacts their horse. And I'm so tired of being labeled as the extremist and the bad guy for not wanting to continue to uphold practices that are consistently being shown to be damaging in evidence-based studies, empirical evidence, peer-reviewed studies. Things that are not as biased as the layman's opinion and the everyday horse rider and trainer who is not educated or held to a scientific standard is biased. And oftentimes, whether we intend to or not, we seek confirmation bias because people don't want to change their practices. I say this as someone who used to defend a lot of these practices that I now call out and who used to make a lot of the same excuses and use a lot of the same arguments that I'm now talking about these people using in this video. But I saw the light, and now that I've seen that, I can't unsee it, and I cannot condone so much of the stuff that is normalized in the sport. And it's so incredibly frustrating to continuously see these things getting more views and attention than ethical horse trainers. There's so many great horse people who are sharing content online and doing truly wonderful things with their horses that do not get the same attention as these flashy, explosive videos of really stressed horses. And it's because at its core, so many people have been conditioned to view stressed horses as more interesting, to view bad horse training that induces stress as more interesting. And it's so frustrating. So thank you for watching this video. I'm going to link some of the hyperflexion studies in the description of the video if anyone's interested in reading, because believe me when I say there is no reason to support training like this. It is not correct. It is not fair to the horse. There are a lot of downsides for horse welfare when using it. So anyone who chooses to continuously defend and maintain using these types of training methods is not a good horse person. They are exploiting their horse and abusing their horse for their own gain, and that is not okay. I'm also sick of the horse industry trying to gaslight people into thinking that they're being unreasonable for calling these types of practices out. I would just like to give an example that recently Cesar Para, who is an Olympic level dressage rider or was just suspended for 15 years because of footage that came out from his training barn where he was doing stuff that is not unlike what Andrew Pearman is openly posting online all the time. And there needs to be some level of consistency throughout the entirety of horse sport for what is enabled and allowed, especially based off of evidence-based practices. There is no reason why this stuff needs to be continued. And I am so tired of people trying to gaslight me into thinking that I'm being oversensitive or overreactive because the information is out there. So if you've noticed stuff like this and you've felt off about it, don't let people gaslight you into thinking that you're the one who's in the wrong. Just because they're willing to get up in a big group and try to put you down and silence you does not mean that they're correct. There's a reason why they are so loud and belligerent in how they put people down to try to shut them up. And it's because they are terrified of what the welfare advocacy movements might mean for the sport, because they don't want to change their practices. And that says a lot about these types of horse trainers, because if their talent was actually what they think it is, they should be able to pivot, adapt, and change and develop better ethics and still train well. So if people cannot do that, it says something about their talent as a horse person. Thank you for watching. Check out my links down below if you want to see my Patreon and any tutorials that I have. My shop page, there's a huge sale going on in store because my store is going to be going on hiatus. Everything's 40% off, and that's a great way to support me in the work that I do. And thank you for watching. And guys, if you go to his account, like honestly, try to just screen record and take videos or screenshots and make your own posts about him. Try not to comment on his stuff and blow up the post because it'll just give them more attention. That's my best recommendation. Thanks for watching.